People in Bayonne that can talk to her.
Got enough sugar?
Oh, well, you gonna start with me about the sugar now, too, Cynthia?
All of these details come out in flashbacks of Moore's version of the story after Willis is possibly and finally murdered, and Moore is interrogated by the police, played by Harvey Keitel and Billy Neal.
I didn't do anything. I may have mixed feelings about James, but I would never raise a hand to anyone. I would never hurt anyone. Now look, if Joyce is gonna get caught, then she was gonna get caught. I am not gonna be the one to turn on her.
Mortal Thoughts is kind of like a suburban New Jersey version of Rashomon with its different versions of the same events. And there's another whole level of the plot I haven't even touched on involving Demi Moore's own husband and what happens to him. The movie is interesting in a couple of different ways. One, because Moore and Headley do a skillful job of playing these best friends who feel trapped in their lives. And two, because the screenplay gives us just about everything we need to figure out who did what, and to whom, and how, and when, and then let's just decide for ourselves instead of explaining everything. This is a bright and intriguing movie. I liked it.
I enjoyed it. I think the acting is what got me here, because when you see Hollywood stars go into in this case, a wife abuse kind of film, immediately, I don't know, my back goes up and I say, oh, you know, they're going to be slumming. Well, as I watched these two women work in the beauty parlor in the New Jersey, the Bayonne beauty parlor, I didn't spot them acting. I thought they were very credible. Willis was good. Harvey Keitel is very strong, playing this sort of loudish, plodding ahead, but smart detective. I thought all four performances were first-rate, and so I did follow the story on the basis of all the performances.
Yeah, the thing, when I first saw the Harvey Keitel stuff, I thought, is this going to be another thing where this character is simply a device in order to move the story along? No. The movie is an investigation of what happened, and it's really more from Keitel's point of view than anybody else's. You see various versions of what's happening, but his questions are right on the mark, and it's that investigation that pushes the movie forward and keeps you interested.
You know, what it really is that he is smarter than any of us in the audience, but in a way that we can't pick up on. He doesn't look that smart, and it turns out you're saying, wait, he's off, he's off, he's off. He's on to something.
It's an interesting movie, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, our next film is a historical romantic drama called Impromptu, and this is one of my least favorite kinds of movies where we see famous writers and musicians dally romantically with each other and refer to each other by their first names, like in the case Franz, and we're supposed to whisper to ourselves, that's Franz Liszt over there. But much to my surprise, I enjoyed Impromptu, principally because of Judy Davis's enthusiastic performance as writer George Sand, who pursues and turns on Frederick Chopin.
Monsieur Chopin, you are in the middle of a miracle. I'm not quite yet cured.
How did you get in here? Who are you?
I am your slave, and you have summoned me with your music.
That's Hugh Grant as Chopin, and their affair is more than a sex romp, as George Sand sees herself as a missionary for liberating creative souls. She's kind of touching here, offering emotional strength.
Look, I don't believe you're ill at all. You just need more strength. Take mine. Really? I have too much of it.
Well, did I learn anything from Impromptu? Not really, but it does pass at least one basic test for historical drama. It made me want to read some of George Sand's writings, and a film that entertains and stimulates curiosity in a book or in a writer is okay in my book.
You know, I know what you're talking about with these historical, look who's over there in the corner playing the piano type of movies. You remember that one?
Eugene Delacroix.
Yeah, right. Remember the one about where it was Shelley and Keats and their summer where Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein and everybody is jumping in and out of bed with each other. The interesting thing about this film is that it does seem to be seriously interested in these people and also interested in George Sand, who as a woman who dressed as a man, who refused to play the role of a woman in her society at a time when everybody knew what a woman should do. She went wherever she wanted to go. She said whatever she felt like saying. She chose her lovers exactly the way she felt. So she was sort of an early independent woman, and that is the reason they wanted to make the movie, and since they have a reason other than simply dropping famous names, it works. It's interesting.
It works because her character is that interesting and very well played.
Later in the show, the surprise winner of this year's Oscar for Best Foreign Film, and when we come back, Steven Seagal is tearing apart Brooklyn in Out for Justice.
I'll feed you every dope digging dive he's got. But let me do it my way. Just give me an unmarked and a shotgun, all right?
Yeah, that's right. Give him an unmarked car and a shotgun, and that cop there, played by Steven Seagal, will find the mobster who killed his best friend. You know, usually the superior officer, we think we know what his lines are going to be. I'm taking your gun and your badge away and taking you off this case, and I don't want you to get anywhere near it. But no, the guy says, here are the car keys. Go shoot it. But the strange thing is, Seagal doesn't seem to be a very good searcher as he looks for that mobster. And so even though his enemy is out of his mind on drugs and shooting up half of Brooklyn and driving around in a big car with a bunch of buddies, Seagal can't find him until after he is engaged in at least 4 carefully planned martial arts sequences. Here's one of those sequences. Notice how the guys come at him one at a time, almost as if they've been choreographed. Scenes like this in Out for Justice are set pieces in martial arts films. They're like song and dance numbers in a musical. It's incredible the amount of violence this character inflicts that has absolutely nothing to do with his search for the killer.
Who's the boxer? Me.
You the boxer?
Yeah.
You're a tough guy.
Yeah, tough enough.
Really? What could you do?
To you?
Yeah.
Seagal finally does corner the rat, however, and there's some neat dialogue as we try to figure out what their relationship is.
What are you gonna do, huh? Huh? What are you gonna do? You gonna arrest me, huh? You gonna arrest me? I'm out of bullets!
That's a shame. Because those bullets could have saved you a lot of pain.
I like pain.
Out for Justice is a movie with some real holes in it. For example, early in the film, Seagal pays his respects to the local mafia godfather, even breaks into Italian to tell him how much he loves him. He kisses him. Later on, though, he walks in and insults him, and I'm not sure why, and apparently neither is the godfather, since the whole insult thing is then forgotten about and never followed up on. Another strange thing is that while Seagal is searching all over Brooklyn for that bad guy, in scene after scene after scene, the regular cops on the force find him. They find his hideout, they break into it with an armored truck, after which the guy runs away and escapes, and Seagal still can't find him. I mean, come on. Brooklyn is only so big.
Then how do you explain that I like the picture?
Well, maybe because it was so dumb and so silly that...
It was silly, but there's something about this guy, and I've seen him in these pictures, and when I watch him on talk shows, I find him so unctuous. I don't want to go anywhere near his movies. Then when I go to the pictures, I enjoy them. He's relaxed about himself as he enters into these choreographed sequences that you talk about. They're kind of charming, they're fun. I think his stuff is just as good as Charles Bronson or Chuck Norris right now. In fact, I think the movies are more entertaining than those guys have done lately. I think they're kind of fun. There are, you know, that he doesn't get the guy sooner, yeah, that's a major mistake. But I think that there's a charm to the guy that I think
Well,
is...
I've liked some of Steven Seagal's work, and this one is it's a thumb down for me, but it's not a movie that I hate. There is interesting stuff about it. He's interesting on the screen. There's a long patch, though, in the middle, Gene, where they have music, and it's a montage of he's going around and talking to various people. And
he has to show that he is friendly with all different segments of the community. Everything from a mafia guy to
he's so friendly with him. He visits the pool. He visits the pool hall twice. Right. Even the guy that runs the pool hall complains. These people are always breaking in here and beating up everybody. I mean, it becomes repetitious after a while. The search goes on so long.
I guess I enjoy his work enough that I don't mind that he makes mistakes. Coming up next, this year's Oscar winner for Best Foreign Language Film. It's from Switzerland, and it's called Journey of Hope. But does it deserve the Oscar? A Turkish family struggles through the Swiss mountains in the adventure film Journey of Hope, which won the Oscar last month as Best Foreign Language Film, beating out such favorites as Cyrano de Bergerac from France and Judo from China. I don't think Journey of Hope is as good as either one of those films, but it's still a compelling story of a struggle for a better life as a dirt-poor Turkish father and son dream of a better life in Switzerland. A neighbor has sent them a postcard from there describing it as a golden paradise. At first, the trip seems blessed as the family meets a kindly Swiss truck driver who is willing to take them directly to his homeland. He also buys them a meal on the road in Italy. The heart of the film is how these immigrants are exploited by their own countrymen and others as they are charged exorbitant immigration fees and later sent on what amounts to a death march through the icy Swiss Alps. This film is touching in its particular story. The Turkish actors are very good, and in one terrific scene we see the intransigence of some Swiss people to any immigrants. A wealthy man swims in a glass-enclosed swimming pool, and the Turks bang on the walls for him to save them from the cold outside. But I think the problem of Swiss immigration is a little more complex than this film allows. I give the movie thumbs up, but I don't think this is Oscar-caliber material.
It doesn't get thumbs up for me. I felt that I knew more or less at the beginning exactly what the film was going to tell me, and then it didn't even tell me as much as I expected it to tell me. For example, this whole notion of immigrant workers, temporary laborers from southern Europe and from Greece and from Turkey, is very charged in Europe because these countries need these laborers to do jobs that the local citizens don't want or that aren't paid well enough. Germany and Switzerland and Sweden and all of these countries have lots and lots and lots of Turks who they want, and therefore they should bring them in with legal papers instead of allowing them essentially to know that they can get a job if they enter the country illegally. There is no attack in this movie on Switzerland. This movie is a very pro-Swiss movie. The Turks are all the bad guys. The Swiss are basically humanitarians, and I think the movie really misses the boat in what it should be saying.
I don't think that the Swiss are all the good guys. I mean,
no,
the image that I talked about where they can't get in, I think that's a pretty strong image for being held out of this land. That's number one. Number two, I don't think the film discusses the issue in any. In other words, you walk out of the film and you haven't learned the issue.
Yeah.
But I think as a narrative drive, I think you follow the story.
Oh, you care that
like
the
a woman,
family and the little boy, they're out there in the
Yes.
cold. You think, how stupid can these parents be, basically? I mean, would you take your children to walk across the Alps in the middle of the winter?
I would not. But of
No,
course,
I don't think you would.
they
With
know
street
what's
shoes
coming.
on and holding suitcases, one in each hand? I don't think so.
I wouldn't drive it in a car, but the point is I know what's on the other side. Presumably they do not. I mean, that's the issue here.
Okay, when we come back, a tribute to a great man of the cinema who died this week, the British filmmaker David Lean. Heroes this week when the British director David Lean died on Tuesday at the age of 83. His career began almost 60 years ago when he started out as a film editor, but Lean came into his own after World War II as the director of a series of sharp and sophisticated popular films like Brief Encounter and Great Expectations. Then in more recent years, he became famous for making a series of epic films, including The Great Lawrence of Arabia. This is the opening scene of his adaptation of Charles Dickens's Great Expectations, a sequence so perfectly edited that generations of film students have learned from it.
Keep still, you little devil, or I'll cut your throat.
No, sir, no.
And look at the mood here in Brief Encounter, the bittersweet story of a wartime romance starring Trevor Howard and Celia Johnson.
I love you, Laura. I shall love you always until the end of my life.
Here's Katharine Hepburn going into the Grand Canal in Venice and Lean's sentimental love story, Summertime. David Lean's first great worldwide hit was The Bridge on the River Kwai in 1957, with Alec Guinness as a British officer in conflict with the commander of a Japanese POW camp.
Since you refuse to abide by the laws of the civilized world, we must consider ourselves absolved from our duty to obey you. My officers will not do manual labor.
Then came Lean's Great Lawrence of Arabia, seen here in all of its widescreen glory. The movie was recently restored according to the director's original intentions and won a whole new audience. The movie made a star of a newcomer named Peter O'Toole. And then there was another landmark film, Dr. Zhivago, which made a star of Julie Christie.
Civil war has started.
Good.
Civil war? Good. Oh, good, comrade nurse, inevitable.
David Lean's most recent and last film was his 1985 A Passage to India with Alec Guinness again, this time as an Indian somewhat amused by the attitudes of English people.
Very beguiling, but at this moment my only interest is to do something for Aziz.
Excuse me, but nothing you do will change the outcome.
So do nothing. Is that your philosophy?
My philosophy is you can do what you like, but the outcome will be the same.
David Lean was first and foremost a craftsman, a traditionalist who didn't want to invent a new film language, but simply do things the way they'd long been done, only do them better. He worked slowly, and there were long years sometimes between his films, but when you saw them, you knew you were in the presence of a great visual artist. At the time of his death, he was working on another film of the classic Joseph Conrad novel, Nostromo. It was almost set to start shooting last winter when Lean grew ill. His screenplays were always so meticulous and polished, and his pre-planning was so detailed that I'll bet another good director could pick up that project and finish it and make a pretty good film out of it, and I wish one would.
I'm glad that you mentioned his intimate films, the Dickens Great Expectations and Brief Encounter, because...
And Oliver Twist.
And Oliver Twist. Those are as good a job of filmmaking as the epics, and I know that in all of the obits, of course, it's going to be on the grand scale is going to be emphasized, and people, if they want to screen his work, should screen both elements, both parts of his career, because they're both exceedingly well done.
In preparing this little segment of our show, I looked at the list of his films that are available on video, and I was shocked to find out that Breaking Through the Sound Barrier is not on video. I saw that when I was a kid, and I was just chained to my seat. It was so good. I don't know why it isn't on video. It was about the way the planes began to disintegrate and fall apart, and for a long time they thought it was impossible to go faster than sound.
The pre-planning that you're talking about is, of course, one of the things that distinguishes his career, and also comments on the kind of filmmaking we get today, where we have scripts come to the screen that aren't polished at all.
Movies are made before the script is written in some cases. Lean never did that.
Coming up next, our home video pick of the week, a 1975 inner-city musical drama with a great Motown score. It's just out now on home video. Given to such inner-city films lately as New Jack City and The Five Heartbeats, I was pleased to see the release this week on home video of Cooley High, a 1975 drama with music that I think is better than either one of those more publicized films. Cooley High is a Chicago-based story about a bunch of friends growing up in the streets. It's full of warm-hearted friendships, including one between classmates Glynn Turman and Lawrence Hilton Jacob. Cooley High hasn't been available on tape for 16 years while the music rights were being sorted out now. It's now available for a whole new generation to enjoy. I highly recommend it. Now let's recap the movies we reviewed on this show. 2 thumbs up for Mortal Thoughts, the intriguing whodunit about Glenn Headley and Demi Moore sleeping with the enemy, Bruce Willis. It's a well-acted, smartly written script. 2 thumbs up for the historical costume drama Impromptu, about the life and loves of George Sand. Judy Davis is superb as the infamous writer. A split vote on Steven Seagal's action picture Out for Justice. Roger was bothered by all the plot holes. I got a kick out of Seagal kicking barrooms full of thugs. Another split vote on the Oscar-winning Swiss film Journey of Hope. Roger thought it was a superficial look at an important problem. I recognized the journalism wasn't very good, but the personal story did get me. So I think Mortal Thoughts, out of all the pictures, is probably the best.
Yeah, and you know, just to get back a little bit to the acting with Demi Moore and Glenn Headley, this is good acting here. And you know, Glenn Headley comes from the Steppenwolf Company. She's supposed to be very good.
Right.
Demi Moore, because she's a star, is, I think, sometimes condescended to a little bit.
Yeah.
She's very good in this movie,
Yeah,
too.
Ghost was no act, and when you see this, you realize her emotional quality that she expressed in Ghost. This is no accident.
She's
very good, and she's very good on just simply a reaction shot and letting that face without dialogue do a lot of work.
Okay, that's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with Oscar, a mob comedy starring Sylvester Stallone, and also A Kiss Before Dying, a psychological thriller with Matt Dillon and Sean Young. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Ringer Lawn Restore is the natural, chemical-free way to make your lawn healthy and green. Ringer, all natural, all good, all safe.